Hey guys! So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the scenario from this month's organized play events. It was the one with the planet and the automated turrets around the planet. And I'll throw up a picture of some of my gameplay. I was playing Klingons this go, and I have to say I was not a fan of this scenario. I really struggled with it. So the turrets were undestroyable in this scenario, and the planet just blocked line of sight. Those automated turrets would basically shoot anything within range, band 1 or 2 of them, and oh my god, 4 shots every time. It was really hard to have anything cloaked around them because they'd still shoot. And even if you're rolling 5 or 6 evade die, you really couldn't avoid those shots. There were some points on the board closer to the planet, for example, where you could get conceivably shot by 3 out of 4 of those turrets. And again, you cannot destroy them. So the way that I wanted to play, which was a very meet in the middle, try to outmaneuver my opponent, ended up with me chasing my opponent around the planet and just getting shot at by those turrets, which was really, really rough. It was really, really rough. And that didn't work. The more successful opponents that I played, the guys who actually played the scenario in a, smarter, obviously, but also more strategic way, they did well by, hugging the board edge and just chasing around the board edge. You might get pot-shotted maybe a couple times by some turrets on the outside, but I think that kind of gets to the point of why I didn't like this scenario. It really encouraged people to play chicken, and there were a lot of games that I watched and played that went to time where people were just chasing each other, and there were a lot of games that I observed other people play where they just chased around the board. Yeah, that was my opinion on it. At my event, the Romulan player won, as usual. We have a really strong Romulan player in my area. He is really good with that particular fleet, but I mean, Romulan players, let's all admit it straight up face value. Romulan players have a really excellent toolbox from which they can pull. They're extremely defensive, which I know has benefited them in these scenarios, month 1 and month 2, but more obviously in this month. And it's interesting to see how the other factions are doing. You might notice that I'm also making reference to specific fleets and specific factions. In my area, we play restricted factions. So everything in your list, unless it is independent, must be from that faction. So you can take independent upgrades, you can take independent captains where we play, and you still have to pay the faction penalty for that. But if you don't, if you're playing any other things, you're not including independents in your list, it has to be straight faction. And I like it coming from a miniature wargaming background, where the idea of commingling lists is blasphemy. I like that. I also like the fact that you actually have to play the strengths of your fleet, and you have to try to mitigate the weaknesses of your fleet without going outside the fleet. So, Romulans are extremely defensive, and Klingons are very, very, aggressive, lots of attacks, not very much in terms of hull and shields. Or evades even. The Federation is kind of like the Boy Scouts. They got everything for every situation. And the fact that they have battle stations, and it really benefits them, those battle stations, like mad. And they have a really deep crew set, which also benefits them. But at the same time, they're not particularly good on their own attacking, they're not particularly defensive. There's nothing very specific to them beyond the versatility of that fleet. And, I like that. The Dominion, I'm going to say this now. If you're playing a Dominion fleet, good on you. You guys are going to, start killing in December when the new releases come out and you get that freaking Cardassian warship. You don't I think the Dominion right now are struggling in in that they don't really have a really good heavy ship yet. Everyone else does. Some have two. But they understand movement, I think, better than any other player out there right now. Unless you're one of those guys who plays like free captains on all your ships. Dominion players are always moving first, always shooting last, and because of that, they are starting to understand the mechanics of movement in this game, and I think that's going to move them to the next level when they actually have all the tools that everyone else kind of does now. When they get a captain with, like, a command skill higher than, like, I think 5 is their highest, when they start getting some really interesting combinations built in with the combinations they have in their toolkit, they're going to see some really excellent stuff. I do have to say, though, in this particular scenario, I think that the Jem'Hadar ships, if you played them in this scenario, would have done extremely well. Would have done better than a lot of other ships. They have a really high movement rate, so if you're chasing around the perimeter of the board, they will eventually catch you. They have a pretty high evade as well. I noticed that Defiant class ships were doing really well as well for those same reasons. And I appreciate that. I guess if I was going to speculate, and this is me just like throwing it out in the air, I think that perhaps the scenario was built to benefit people who picked up the new ships, which kind of sucks if you played in the OP event before, like, the new wave came out in the middle of this month, because you didn't get a chance to access those ships. But I look back on the scenario, and I think if I was going to modify it, I might make, like, give the actual turrets their actual stats, so they are destroyable, and play it out that way and see if that would have changed anything at all. I'm still going to try it. I'm going to try a couple of those games out, at least in my house, and see how it goes, see if I like the scenario more for it. I'm still feeling really raw about it because I went like 2-1, like, or 1-2 actually. I went 1-2, and the only reason why I got that 1 is because my opponent and I we had the same amount of, like, battle points destroyed at the end of the game, and the winner was pretty much determined by rolling your attack die, 5 of them, and seeing who got more battle stations, which really freaking sucked. Honestly, that mechanic kind of sucked, and I would have taken. I honestly should have taken the loss because I was trying to play really defensive to the scenario, and it made for a really bad game. So I'm gonna hopefully recover for month 3 scenario and do a little bit better. I'm also, speaking of month 3 scenario, I'm going to be releasing a video on what's coming up in the prize pack for that month. So I'll stick it right here, and you can just click here and check that out. I'm interested in seeing what you have to say about this scenario. If you played it, let me know what you think. If you do any modifications to it, also let me know. And if you have any thoughts about restricted fleets, go in the comments and let me know too. That's me for this video. Don't forget to check out the other videos I've got. I've got a few attack wing videos up. I'm still working on the Vorcha painting tutorial, so give me a little more time on that. Sorry for taking so long. But don't forget to go down and like this video if you like it. Subscribe to this channel if you're interested in finding out more stuff as I put up videos. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. I'll put the links down below, and that way you find out when I release a new video pretty much right away. So until next time, I will see you soon.